Morning, everyone. It's Miss Heineman, and I thought I'd start out our day by going over a few things on the first two assignments that I saw so they could get some feedback since these haven't been regular school days. And so just some answers here, the congruent figures review, just to make sure that you have places to check in. So for number one, I didn't write it here, but you should have just pulled it from your yellow pages or Googled it. Congruent figures are figures where all pairs of corresponding sides are congruent and all pairs of corresponding angles are congruent. And then some answers that I listed here. For number two, you had to find the value of x. If you found the value of x correctly, that means measure of angle B prime is 60. And then for number three, x plus y was 31. And so just a quick comment about that one. There was a clever way to do it. If you notice that 2x plus 2y equaled 62, you could have just divided out 2 from all of the terms and then gotten x plus y equals 31 and been done instead of solving a system. But if you did solve the system, x should have been 14 and y should have been 17, and that would have given you the 31. That was Wednesday's assignment. So if we look at yesterday's assignment, just a couple things that I noticed. To tell you the truth, most of you did pretty well following the directions for number one. It's probably the most straightforward once you get it, but some of you also wrote really strange things. And so, for example, this part here, I should be seeing for your reason, side, 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 angle, 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 side, RHL, nothing else. Like there, I shouldn't see words like at. I don't know. Someone wrote that. That was a really bizarre answer. And then I also wanted to make sure you understood that here I should see 3 letters to talk about your triangles, not 2 and not 1. If you're having problems figuring out which 2 triangles are congruent, I would suggest actually just drawing them separately. So I have my computer standing up on my desk, so this is really strange. But it keeps freezing, so I have to do it like this at least for the time being. And hopefully I can fix it later. But the little squiggle here was not there before I had to add it. That's the reflexive side. Remember, if the 2 triangles are sharing a side, you can count them as congruent. So I'm actually going to take the second triangle and flip it around so that I can see how their matches work. Okay, so the angle that has this little mark on it has the A, and I'm looking at this triangle here. The angle that has this little mark here is the U, so this must be the T. So you can see A and T matches TUA. And then there's the reflexive side. So be careful and use your scratch paper to at least draw them out. Another one I wanted to talk about was 1D. It cannot be determined. If you know all 3 sets of angles are congruent, all you know is that they're similar. You don't actually know if those triangles are actually the same size. And then number 2, if you wanted to check your work, EF was 35, and number 3, perimeter was 56. All right, email me with questions about that, and then we'll go on to our lesson. And so today we're actually going to start writing proof, and yes, this was always in the schedule. For us, we have proof at the end of the year, which is, I think, in a lot of ways nicer because a lot of the things that you're learning now are not super new to you. If we did this at the beginning of the year, it seems to me now it's just, if you do that at the beginning of the year, there's so much you're learning that's new. School's new, all the material in geometry is new, you're learning how to read everything, and then we're asking you to write as well. And I think starting off with proof on when using congruent triangles is probably the best, the easiest, the most straightforward way to do this. And so, for proof, it's not too bad. I just want to say that up front. And we are going to start out with level 1 proof. So we will have 3 levels of these. But today we'll start out with level 1. And on your homework, there's actually only one, and I actually give you some of the scrambled statements and reasons to help you out with that since we're not together. So your goal is to look at a few things. There is this end goal. This is our goal. That's our goal. That's always going to be our last step. All right, so that's great. Last step of our proof. And then you look at your givens. Now, your givens are what are true. Just told as true. So you just go with those, okay? And like you have all year, you go through your givens and then you write out. You can write out on your picture, you make your tick marks, what's actually true about the picture. So given ray MT bisects angle AMS, if you remember bisects, it means to cut in half. So what that tells us is, if I put the numbers here, and if you want to write numbers instead of angles, it's fine, just write it in your picture. So it just means angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, right? Because it's been cut in half. So I'm going to mark that in my picture. Okay. And then this one's a little more straightforward. Segment AM is congruent to segment MS. Awesome. Now, if I look at our goal, what we want to prove the two triangles there congruent, triangle AMT and triangle SMT. Now, remember, we need 3 matches. We need 3 matches. 3 matches, or 3 sets of corresponding sides or angles congruent. And if I look, I only have 2. I have a side, and then I have an angle. And so now we're going to look at, do I have a reflexive side or angle, or do I have any vertical angles? Well, if I look at the picture, there actually aren't any vertical angles, but I do see that they share a side. Okay, so we have a reflexive side here, so we can make a note to ourselves that we're going to use that side. So if I pull out one of these triangles, like this, AMT, and then I pull out the other triangle, SMT, oh look, those are the ones I want. These are the marks. This, 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 this. So what do you think? Out of our 5 ways of showing triangles are congruent, now that I have 3 matches, what do we have? And so when you look at your picture, and that's why your marks are super important, you can see, hopefully, that it's side, angle, side. And so now we're going to go write this. Okay, that's all the planning. All the planning. All right? And so some scrambled statements and reasons. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see all of our thoughts. And so usually what I do is I start with a given. And so I know in the end I want to show side, angle, side, and side, angle, side. And so when I write my proof, I try to write it in the order of side, angle, side. Now, if you don't, it's okay. As long as the steps before support your future steps. Just like when you were doing the activity when you were being a general contractor, you can't install windows until you've ordered them. You've got to order them before you install them. And it doesn't matter necessarily at what point you order them, as long as you order the windows before you install them. And so that's how I want you to think about it. All right, so I'm going to start with the given, but I'm going to start with the side, so I can do side, angle, side. Segment AM is congruent to segment MS. Awesome, so I just did that. That's a statement, and the reason I know that is because it was given to me. That's really nice. It was given to me. And notice this is some of the scrambled statements and reasons, not all of them. So right now I have a side, okay? Now I want to show my angle. And so where did my angle come from? It came from the ray here, ray MT bisects angle AMS. That is also given, all right? It was listed up there. Now what's important about that is that it gave us these 2 angles. So because the ray bisected that angle, I know angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. So what do I write? Well, this is angle 1 and angle 2. I just renamed them. And it looks like I can use this. If a ray bisects an angle, so that's what I knew from step 2, then it divides an angle into two congruent angles. Okay? So there's my angle. Awesome. So I have the side, I have the angle, I just need the other side. Now if you remember, that was the last thing we thought about here. And if I look at my scrambled statements and reasons, I think the only thing I haven't used here for a reason is reflexive property. So we're going to come down here and say MT is congruent to MT. Reflexive property. Okay. There's my other side. And now that I have all my three matches, I can finally finish with the last step. Triangle AMT is congruent to triangle SMT by side, angle, side. And I got my side from step 1, my angle from step 3, and my other side from step 4. So steps 1 through 4 can be in any order, except these two have to be clumped together in that particular order, because you can't say angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 until you say right before it that the ray bisected that angle. All right? Now we're going to do one more practice one, so I'm going to actually go to the next proof, and I actually want you to do all the thinking like we did here, maybe make some marks, draw this out in your notebook, see what you could figure out, which shortcut it is of the of showing the three matches for congruent triangles. And then after you've tried to figure out as much as possible, unpause the video and then you can see how I did it. So here's the last one for today. All right, and so pause the video right now and think about it. All right, now that you've thought about it, I hope you have these marks in your picture. So angle M is congruent to angle P. Got that. Segment MP is bisected, so segment MP is actually the one cut in half. So that's what's true. Okay. And then I don't have any other givens, so I have to look for a reflexive side or angle. So there's no overlapping parts, which means I can't use it. And then any vertical angles. So I see some vertical angles. I hope you did too here. And I'm going to call those angles 3 and 4. All right, so if I look at my picture, why are these two triangles congruent? If I draw at least one of them, JMF, and I look at their marks, I hope you see angle, side, angle. All right, and so here we go, trying to write them. Now, on the statement side, you're always going to write very specific things about the picture. The reasons are very general. They work for any picture. All right, so I'm going to do angle M is congruent to angle P, given. There's my angle. My side comes from the second given, but I have to write it as two separate steps. Segment MP is bisected by segment JW, still given. But what's true? Well, let's look at our picture. This means that segment MF is congruent to segment FP. So if you look before, what happened? If a segment bisects another segment, then what happens? It is divided into two congruent segments. That's all. That you know from a very long time ago. And then we have our vertical angles. Angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. And here it's really easy. You just write vertical angles are congruent. Always, if you want. And then we have our three matches. If we double check, I showed an angle here. Look, I have a set of sides and the angle. So I can just finish. Triangle JMF is congruent to triangle WPF by angle, side angle, steps 1, 3, 4. And last thing to note here is, we do have angle, side angle as one, and then angle, angle, side. And you have to decide which one it is. And since the side is between the two angles, it has to be this one. All right. Be good. Have fun at eSchool.